name is Christian Rodriguez, and this is the Political Compass, where we will recap important headlines coming out of Washington, D.C., Tallahassee, and the global stage in order to spread civic literacy amongst Belen students. Let's begin the news with the elections that took place all over the country on Tuesday. In several states, Democrats widely overperformed expectations, a result which took many political scientists by surprise due to President Biden's low approval ratings. In Kentucky, Democrat Governor Andy Beshear won re-election in a state former President Trump won by almost 30 points. Governor Beshear won by 5 points, defeating the state's current Attorney General Daniel Cameron, a Republican who strongly touted his endorsement from former President Donald Trump. Attorney General Cameron is widely seen as a rising star in the Republican Party due to his youth and background as a conservative African American. Beshear's victory has been widely attributed to his popularity amongst Democrats, independents, and even many Republicans. He claimed victory tonight, saying, quote, "Tonight Kentucky made a choice not to move to the right or the left, but to move forward for every single family." In Mississippi, Republican Governor Tate Reeves won re-election to a second term by just 4.5 points, which was seen as an underperformance by Republicans in a state Trump won by 17 points. The Democrat candidate in the race was Public Service Commissioner Brandon Presley, a relative of the late star Elvis Presley. Presley was widely seen as a stellar recruit, as he was a moderate Southern Democrat in a ruby red state. Governor Reeves framed his win as a win against President Biden's agenda, saying, quote, "We all now know what it means in a state like Mississippi when you stand up to the national liberals and when you stand up to Joe Biden." In Virginia, both chambers of the General Assembly were up for election, the Virginia Senate and the Virginia House of Delegates. Republican Governor Glenn Youngkin, who's a rising star in the GOP, sought out to hold the Republican majority in the House and flip the Senate in order to establish a Republican trifecta in all branches of government. He did this by spending considerable political capital, time, and money in order to support candidates up and down the ballot. The results on Tuesday night spelled a major defeat for Governor Youngkin and for Republicans in Virginia, as the party lost its majority in the House of Delegates and did not flip the state Senate, as many had hoped. This win for Democrats gives them a major role in holding the line against the governor's conservative priorities for the next 2 years of his term. The governor reacted to these results by saying, quote, "This was a razor-thin set of decisions that were made on both sides of a number of these races. And I think it underpins the fact that Virginia is clearly a state that has historically moved back and forth." The election will also likely result in making history, as Delegate Don Scott is poised to become the first African American Speaker of the Virginia House of Delegates. Also, in Pennsylvania, a make-or-break swing state for both political parties, there was an extremely competitive race for a seat on the state's Supreme Court. In Pennsylvania, judges run in partisan primaries and elections in order to get a seat on the highest court of the state. This race saw Judge Daniel McCaffrey, a Democrat, defeat Judge Carolyn Carluccio, a Republican. This race restores Democrats' majority on the Pennsylvania Supreme Court to 5-2. This race is also noteworthy due to the fact that a Democrat candidate won Pennsylvania by over 6 points, in a state that will be critical to both parties' chances in the 2024 election, which is less than a year away. The results of these elections were widely seen as a major success for the Democrat Party, especially due to the overperformances in rural areas like Kentucky and Mississippi. Many national Democrats, including Vice President Kamala Harris, proclaimed victory. In a short aside with reporters outside of the White House, the vice president said, quote, "Last night, I think the American people made clear that they are prepared to stand for freedom and for the individual freedom and the promise of freedom in America, and by extension, was a good night for democracy." Separately, on Wednesday, several Republican candidates for president gathered in the Adrian Arch Center in downtown Miami, Florida, for the third Republican debate. Only 5 candidates qualified for this debate. They were Governor Ron DeSantis, Ambassador Nikki Haley, entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy, Governor Chris Christie, and Senator Tim Scott. Notably absent was former President Donald Trump, who instead of participating in the debate, was holding a campaign rally just miles away in Hialeah, Florida, where Arkansas Governor and former White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders announced she was endorsing her former boss for his old job. The debate was broadcast by NBC News and was moderated by Kristen Welker, Lester Holt, and Hugh Hewitt. Some memorable moments included the debate kicking off to a fiery Ramaswamy attacking the moderators and the chair of the Republican National Committee, Ronna McDaniel, saying, quote, "Since Ronna McDaniel took over as chairman of the RNC in 2017, we have lost 2018, 2020, and 2022. No red wave that ever came. We got trounced last night in 2023. And I think that we have to have accountability in our party. For that matter, Ronna, if you want to come on the stage tonight, you want to look the GOP voters in the eyes and tell them you resign, I will turn over my time to you." He also said, quote, "This should be Tucker Carlson, Joe Rogan, and Elon Musk. We'd have 10 times the viewership asking questions that GOP voters actually care about, bringing more people into our party. We've got Kristen Welker here. You think Democrats would actually hire Greg Gutfeld to host a Democratic debate? They wouldn't do it. Kristen, I'm going to use this time, and it's actually about you, and the media and the corrupt media establishment. Ask you the Trump-Russia collusion hoax that you pushed on this network for years. Was that real, or was that Hillary Clinton made up this information? Answer the question." This debate was heavily focused on foreign policy, especially about Israel, Ukraine, China, and Latin America. This area of focus helped Nikki Haley, who now has been surging in polls and is now considered a top contender alongside Ron DeSantis, to excel and show her expertise in the area. All the candidates were steadfast in their support for Israel in their war against Hamas. And some candidates even suggested bombing Iran in retaliation for Iranian proxies' attacks on U.S. military facilities in Syria and Iraq. This included Senator Tim Scott, who said, quote, "You've got to strike in Iran if you want to make a difference." And Ambassador Haley said, quote, "We need to go and take out the infrastructure that they are using to make those strikes so they can never do it again. You punch them once and you punch them hard and they will back off." Although the candidates were relatively uniform in their commitment to Israel, their views diverged on Ukraine, with Ambassador Haley and Governor Christie remaining staunch allies of the country in their fight against Russia. Contrasting the views of Mr. Ramaswamy, who said, quote, "To frame this as some kind of battle of good versus evil, don't buy it. Ukraine is not a paragon of democracy." He also attacked the country's president, President Zelensky, calling him, quote, "a comedian in cargo pants." These comments led to a moment of tension between him and Ambassador Haley, who responded to Mr. Ramaswamy's views by saying, quote, "I'm telling you, Putin and President Xi are salivating at the thought that someone like that could become president." Ramaswamy responded by calling Haley Dick Cheney in 3-inch heels, to which Haley responded, quote, "They're 5-inch heels. I wear heels. They're not a fashion statement. They're for ammunition." Governor DeSantis rebuffed President Biden's request to Congress for aid for Ukraine supplement, instead saying, "We need to bring this war to an end." The vitriol between Haley and Ramaswamy continued when the topic moved to TikTok and its relation to the Chinese government. Mr. Ramaswamy responded to previous attacks by Ambassador Haley on his use of the TikTok app by saying, quote, "She made fun of me for joining TikTok while her own daughter was actually using the app for a long time. So you might want to take care of your family first." This led to a furious Haley clapping back by saying, quote, "Leave my daughter out of your voice. You're just scum." Finally, Governor DeSantis laid out his reason for running by saying, quote, "Donald Trump's a lot different guy than he was in 2016. He owes it to you to be on this stage and explain why he should get another chance. He should explain why he didn't have Mexico pay for the border wall. He should explain why he racked up so much debt. He should explain why he didn't drain the swamp." The debate performance came just days after DeSantis received a big boost to his struggling campaign. This was when the governor of Iowa, Kim Reynolds, endorsed his candidacy, a development that he hopes will well position him to be the first to win the first state in the nominating contest in just 64 days. On Thursday, West Virginia Democrat Senator Joe Manchin announced he would not run for re-election to the United States Senate in 2024. This severely hurts the Democrats' chances of retaining the chamber after that election, as West Virginia is a state former President Trump won by almost 40 points, making this seat an assured flip to the Republican Party in a chamber in which Democrats only hold a one-seat majority. Senator Manchin has been in the Senate since 2010 and has been seen as a voice of moderation and common sense within the Democratic Party. He has been seen as the most conservative Democrat in the Senate. Some noteworthy votes include voting with Republicans for many of former President Trump's appointments to the federal courts, like Justice Brett Kavanaugh and Justice Neil Gorsuch. He is also responsible for the rejection of President Biden's signature Build Back Better proposal. Due to these positions, he has been a frequent target of the far left of the Democrat Party, and he cements his position as a deal breaker and a moderate common sense consensus senator. And with that, that's it for this week's Political Compass segment. Until next time, when we run down headlines coming out of Washington, D.C., Tallahassee, and the world stage for you.